Hi everyone. So IRCC just came out with the actual details about the caregiver program, who actually qualifies, who doesn't qualify, and how we are going to apply. So Mary and I just wanted to go over these details with you.
Mhm.
Mary, let's start with qualifying. Can you sort of clarify about the work experience?
Absolutely. So before there were a lot of questions about what IRCC meant by relevant and recent work experience, they've given us a lot more detail about exactly what they're going to be looking for. So in terms of the work experience you need to have 6 months of continuous work experience that cannot have any breaks in it. So that has to have been consecutive 6 months in a row. Even if there's a small gap in employment, they've said that that will not qualify. It also needs to have been within the correct knock code. So if you're applying under the child care program, they accept work experience working as a home child care provider or under knock 42202, but not as an early childhood educator or a daycare worker or a daycare supervisor. Now, if you're applying under the home support pilot, then you need to have, they'll accept work experience as a home support worker or as a personal support worker or otherwise qualifying under 33102. So those are the two different knocks they'll accept for the home support worker work experience.
Okay, so no breaks in between the 6 months, except for vacation, paid vacation,
Paid
short, like
vacation.
2 weeks paid vacation that you normally get. That's okay. But other than that, like no unpaid leave in between, etc.
No periods of long unemployment, no parental leave, no periods of sick leave, things like that they've specified doesn't qualify. They've also said that it needs to have been at least 30 hours a week. That can be through a combination of two part-time jobs, as long as it was a minimum of 30 hours per week at both, between the two jobs, and that it was for a continuous period of 6 months.
What about recent? How recent does recent have to be?
So it has to have been within the last 3 years, and it has to have been completed before you submit your application. So getting that work experience after you apply will not count towards meeting this qualification.
Okay, 6 months within 3 years at the time of application, not after, at the time of application. Okay, and it has to be within the specified knock codes for the pilot that you're doing. So if you're applying for a job offer as to take care of someone's child, you can't have had the work experience to take care of an elderly person.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, otherwise, one other significant update that they gave is that work experience that you gained as a full-time student doesn't count. So, even if you were studying and you had a placement, for example, if that was part of your full-time studies, that won't count as the work experience that's required for this program.
Right. That is super important. Okay. Now, instead of the work experience, you could have also had the relevant training. What is the relevant training that they're talking about?
Right. So the training that they're looking for needs to have been for at least 6 months. It needs to have been completed within the last 2 years. And it also depends on which program you're going to be qualifying for. So if you're going to try to apply to the childcare program, the training that you receive needs to have been targeted at the knock code that you're going to apply for. So for example, if you're applying for the childcare pilot, the training needs to have been targeted at home child care providers or early childhood educators, but again, they're not accepting training exactly to be an childhood educator. So that's a little bit tricky in the rules that they've given us today.
There. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not really clear what they mean by that, but it is stated, so we'll have to see exactly what they mean about that.
Mhm.
If you're applying under the home support worker pilot, then that's going to need to the training needs to have been home support work for home support workers or for nurse aides, orderlies, and patient services. So otherwise, PSW training is what they would be looking for there.
Okay. That's really important. And let's talk about the out of status policy. One of the things that they did say is that normally to qualify for the normal program is that you have to be living in Canada and you should be working in Canada. However, they have had a few spots available, 125 spots for each pilot program available for out of status and unauthorized home care workers. And these are people who you're still in Canada. You have to have been in Canada, entered legally on or before December 16th, 2021. Okay, so if you're not, you haven't been in Canada since December 16th, 2021, then this doesn't apply to you. But if you have and you have lived here continuously since then, you have had a work permit some point. You don't have to have a work permit now, but you have had a work permit at some point during that period. And you have not made a refugee claim. You are not under a removal order. You're not currently on a study permit in Canada. Okay? So if that doesn't apply to you, if you're okay and that doesn't apply to you, you started living in Canada before, you had a work permit at some time, you did not make a refugee claim, you're not under a removal order, and you're not currently in Canada on a study permit, then you could use work experience that you gained when you didn't actually have authorization to do so, or you had, or if you even if you had authorization, but right now you're a visitor, or even if you don't have visitor status, you don't have temporary status, you could apply under this public policy, but it's only for very few spots.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's
So
really important to know. It's going to be a small number of people that are going to be able to qualify under that program because there's only 250 spots total for people who are out of status. They
Mhm.
have announced a cap for the program for people who are also in status and do have valid work permits as well. There are going to be 2,350 spots for the home care workers and 2,350 spots for the child care workers. So what this means is the program's going to open on March 31st at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and everybody's going to try and apply at the same time. And as soon as that cap is reached, as soon as they've received 2,350 applications under both of those streams and 150 for people who are out of status in each of those streams, then the caps are going to be met and the program's going to close. They've said that the caps will reset on March 31st, 2026. So then we'll be waiting a year until this program might open back up and people can make applications again.
so what should you do at this time? What we are doing right now is we are looking at and making sure our clients qualify and making sure that the applications are perfected, and making sure that we're all sitting at our computers trying to get everybody in as soon as possible, right as the clock strikes 10 a.m. on March 31st. Okay? So, all the best, guys. If you have any questions or if you'd like us to help you out, please do reach out and email us at inquiries@lmlawgroup.com. Take care.